It is my honor, my really distinct pleasure now to introduce as our next speaker, the Honorable Tom Wheeler, our Acting Assistant Attorney General for Civil Rights in the U.S. Department of Justice. Now, Tom previously worked as a partner at an Indianapolis law firm representing schools, municipalities, and state agencies. He also worked extensively with Indiana governors, including Mitch Daniel and a certain Mike Pence, on legislative and policy issues. For those of you who don't know, the Civil Rights Division of the Justice Department, its agenda mirrors so much of our own, including a focus on criminal justice reform, religious freedom, and combating discrimination against all people, and in particular, preventing and prosecuting hate crimes. And I can tell you personally that since Tom Wheeler came into this job just a few short months ago, he has been focused on fighting hate crimes in a way that should make all of us feel good, feel great about our public servants. So I think on behalf of everyone at ADL, I can say we are so pleased that Mr. Wheeler has taken the time to be here at our National Leadership Summit, and that he's sharing with us his perspective, and will talk to us about the work that he has helped to lead, making sure there is a full and robust prosecution for the individuals responsible for the spate of threats against the Jewish community that we've seen in the past several months. The reason why there was an arrest, the reason why there was an announcement of a prosecution is because of who you heard from yesterday, FBI Director Jim Comey, and who you're about to hear from now, the Acting Assistant Attorney General, Tom Wheeler. So ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Tom Wheeler.
Thank you so much. It is truly an honor to speak with you today. I've had the privilege over the last month of working with Jonathan and Michael and your whole team as we've dealt with this horrible JCC situation. I can't overstate the importance of the ADL and its advocacy and leadership on hate crimes issues. For the Jewish community, of course, but for all communities victimized by hate crimes. One of the things that I've said over and over again is that an attack on one religion is an attack on all religions. We are all in this together. I also want to echo, thank you. I'd like to echo what FBI Director Comey said yesterday. We value you as partners in the fight against hate crimes. From your community education efforts to get victims to report hate crimes, to working to improve data collection, to providing technical assistance to help places of worship reduce their exposure to hate violence. You guys provide an invaluable service to us all, and I just want to thank you for that. Now, the JCC threats case, I think, really reminds us of why it's so important to prioritize the investigation and prosecution of hate crimes cases. I actually grew up in a JCC in Indianapolis. I played basketball there, I played soccer there. I am familiar with what the JCCs do for the community. And I'm also, because of that, I'm acutely aware of the damage that the kind of activities that Mr. Kadar was engaged in do not only to the JCCs themselves, but do to the community itself. And that's why hate crimes are so pernicious. They're not just directed at a particular individual. What they are is they're directed at damaging a community. They're directed at driving us apart. There are so many things that make us great as Americans, but the biggest one is our community, our willingness to work together. And hate crimes are designed to do just the opposite, to tear us apart. And I'm absolutely committed to fighting these, and I will do everything within my power in that regard. But it's not, thank you. It's not just me. I know a lot of you were concerned with the results of the election. What's going to happen on hate crimes, what's going to happen on issues of your concern. What I can tell you is that at least on the hate crimes issue, the things that are dividing our country right now don't exist. There's no division on hate crimes. Republican, Democrat. I know Senator Rubio is going to be up here in a minute. You heard from Director Comey. Let me just read you a couple of quotes from my bosses, okay, so you understand where their position is on these issues. President Trump, when he spoke to Congress about the JCC attacks, said this: recent threats targeting Jewish community centers and vandalism of Jewish cemeteries, as well as last week's shooting in Kansas City, remind us that while we may be a nation divided on policies, we are a country that stands united in condemning hate and evil in all its forms. And then on the U.S. Holocaust Museum's Day of Remembrance, he stated as follows: "This is my pledge to you. We will confront anti-Semitism, we will stamp out prejudice, we will condemn hatred, and we will bear witness and act." I take that seriously, and I plan on fulfilling that in my position as head of the Civil Rights Division. Attorney General Sessions, thank you. Attorney General Sessions has said the same thing, and I think this really tells you about our commitment to fighting hate crimes. We must protect the civil rights of all Americans. We will not tolerate threats or acts of violence targeting any person or community in this country on the basis of their religious beliefs or background. All right, now those are all great words. What are we doing to implement that, okay? You saw with the JCC investigation what we've done. We're working forward with the Israelis to prosecute them. You've heard a little bit about that from Director Comey. But let me tell you what we at Justice are doing. The President established a violent crimes executive order. We have a violent crimes task force within the Department of Justice. There are 4 subcommittees of the violent crimes task force. One of those is a hate crime subcommittee. So we have one entire subcommittee, one of only 4, that is devoted only to figuring out how to fight hate crimes. The big thing we're trying to do, we're meeting. We've worked with Jonathan, Michael very closely on these issues. One of the things we learned, as Director Comey mentioned yesterday, is the data is really bad, okay? The FBI data is trailing data. We only have data through 2015. One of the sources that I've been privileged to have access to, thanks to your leadership, is the ADL data. And the ADL data is very good, and we're working with them to take the ADL data and bring that into what we're doing. Because the first thing we need to do in order to fight hate crimes is identify what the problem is. Have we seen a spike? What does the spike look like? Is it limited to particular areas? Is it, we talk about an increase in Muslim hate crime, but we also have a tremendous increase in Jewish hate crime. The percentages are lower just because there's, I think it's about 21% of hate crime is directed at, is anti-Semitic based, and therefore, when you have an increase, even though it's a large in numbers, percentage-wise it doesn't look as big. But that's really where we've seen these issues. So number one, we're going to focus on data. Number two, we're going to identify what the problem is and how to fix it. And number three, we're going to figure out how to work with our law enforcement partners to prosecute and properly investigate these claims. First of all, this looks like a hate crime. It is a hate crime. Let's bring to bear the federal hate crime statutes. As you know, only 34 states have their own hate crime statutes, so it's very important to prosecute our hate crime statutes. In the third week of June, we'll hold the Violent Crime Summit. We will hold a separate summit only on hate crimes on June 29th. Jonathan and Michael are actively engaged. We'll get our invitations out, but we're going to focus on these issues, and we're going to figure out how to combat this pernicious threat and how we can best address this from a Department of Justice standpoint with our law enforcement partners to try to stamp this out, because this is intended to divide us, and we're not going to let that happen. Thank you very much. I appreciate the time.